So in this PowerPoint, we're going to be looking at world religions and ethical systems, just highlighting a few of the major world religions. Of course, we're not going to hit every single one: Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norse mythology, just some of the main religions that are still with us today. So we're looking at really two main categories of religion: polytheism, which is the belief of more God, many gods, and monotheism, which is the belief in one God. Okay, our first religion that we're going to talk about is Hinduism. This is polytheistic. They believe in many gods, and here's a rundown of the world religions where the most prevalent. Not just, this doesn't show that there's only that religion in that area. It's just that is where most people are in that area are that certain religion. So we're looking at Hinduism, as you see the pink there. That is in India, where it is most highly concentrated. It is the main religion of India. We do not know who the founder of Hinduism is. So exactly where it started, we don't know. The main beliefs are, again, polytheism. There are many, many gods in Hinduism. The three main gods are, as you see up there, Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva. The gods of essentially creation, preservation, and death. So Brahman creates, Vishnu protects life, and Shiva destroys life. But it's not meant as a bad thing because of their belief in reincarnation that we'll talk about in just a bit. They have a caste system in Hindu, meaning there are 4 main castes. These are levels of society, essentially. So we have the highest, which are priests, religious leaders. We have the second caste, which are warriors and kings. We have the third caste, which are merchants and traders. And finally, the fourth caste, which are laborers, peasants, essentially. And then there's kind of a fifth one, called the untouchables, and those are people kind of at so low they're at the very, very bottom of the caste system. And it basically, the caste that you're born into is the caste that you stay with. In modern day India, in certain places, there is some flexibility to this. You can move up and out of your caste, but in really rigid Hinduist belief that you're born into whatever caste you're in, you stay there. And that can lead to some problems. The untouchable group in particular, basically the belief is they were born into this lower caste system because they deserve to be, and they shouldn't be helped. So if someone is poor and starving, you shouldn't help them because they deserve to be where they're at. We'll talk more about that later in class. And what determines what caste system you're born into is basically your karma, the positive and negative karma on your soul. So if you do good things, you get good karma. Bad things nets you negative karma. And when you die, the karma on your soul essentially dictates what caste system you're born into. So again, Shiva, the destroyer, isn't seen as a bad thing because basically destroys the life you're in now, and you will just be reborn again. So it's not a permanent end. It's the cycle of reincarnation, which can be broken if you achieve moksha, which is essentially enlightenment beyond the cycle. Okay, the religious texts of the Hindus are the Vedas. They are the oldest religious texts that we have been able to find chronologically. From Hinduism comes our second main religion, Buddhism. And the founder of Buddhism is Siddhartha Gautama. He was born into the warrior king caste in India. He was sheltered throughout most of his life, went out in search of the world, saw the death and destruction, and that really bothered him. So he tried to rise above the systems of Hinduism and figured out how can he end the suffering. One way he tried to do this is by starving himself. He went through a lot of extremes to attain knowledge, and eventually figured out that no, extreme actions are not the way to achieve a higher understanding. Instead, more moderate path. And he sits underneath a plum tree and meditates, and eventually achieves enlightenment and earns the title of Buddha. So Siddhartha Gautama is going to become known as Buddha, which means the enlightened one. Buddhism is not really religion. It's not talking about what happens to you after life. It's more about how do you live the life that we're in now. Founded by Siddhartha Gautama. Very popular in China and East Asia. Also polytheistic, many of the same gods of Hinduism. Again, it really could be any religion and practice the ways of Buddhism. Cycle of reincarnation, and then the Four Noble Truths are basically what it's all about. Which the Four Noble Truths are: to live is to suffer. Suffering is caused by desire. If we eliminate desire, we eliminate suffering. And how we eliminate desire is by following the Eightfold Path, which is basically living the right way, living a moderate way, not giving in to extremes. Again, the middle way is something that Buddhists preach and practice in their life. And eventually, once you attain enlightenment, you will break the system of reincarnation and achieve nirvana. The sutras are the holy texts of Buddhism that include the thoughts of Buddha. On to our world's first monotheistic religion, Judaism. Judaism is founded by Abraham and is a very, very ancient religion. Again, the world's first monotheistic. The belief is that God created the world and that the Jews are the chosen people of God. Jerusalem is the holy city of Judaism, also of the other faiths which splinter off of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The holy book of Judaism is the Torah, which essentially the Bible is the Old Testament of the Bible is essentially the Torah, the first 5 books anyways, and the Torah was written by Moses. On to Christianity. So Judaism was the only real monotheistic religion on earth. Christianity is going to break away from that. Of course, the founder of Christianity is Jesus. Jesus is believed to be the Son of God by Christians. Upon his death and resurrection, Christians believe that eternal life is possible by following him. The Christian faith splintered off from Judaism, so there's many similarities between Judaism and Christianity. Of course, the main one, Christians believe that Jesus was the Son of God. Jews do not. And resurrection of the dead. So the dead can come back to life, that eternal life is possible in heaven through following the teachings of Jesus, are all the beliefs of Christians. And of course, the Bible is the religious text of Christians, both the Old Testament, which is the teachings prior to Jesus, and the New Testament, which is the teachings of Jesus and his apostles, his disciples. Finally, we have Islam. Islam is the newest of the major world religions. Also is they call it an Abrahamic faith. It shares a lot of similarities actually with Christianity and Judaism. Not a separate God. It's all just God. They have all three believe in the same God, just God. There's just one God. The difference is that whereas in Christianity the main prophet of God, the Son of God, was Jesus, in Islam it is Muhammad. Muslims actually believe Jesus was a religious figure and a man of God, but not the Son of God. They do believe Muhammad was the last and greatest of God's prophets. Followers of Islam are called Muslims. They are monotheistic. Again, Muhammad was the greatest and last prophet, a series of many. Moses was a prophet, Jesus was a prophet, Muhammad was the most recent and the greatest of all of them. So it actually a lot of similarities between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. The 5 pillars of Islam we'll look at a little more in class are basically the cornerstones of what it means to be a good Muslim, and their religious text is called the Quran.